Are your sales reps using AI every day to make their jobs easier? If not, you're missing the boat. Let's talk about practical, tactical uses of AI in sales in this episode of Closing Time. Thanks for tuning into Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Val Riley, head of marketing for Insightly, Unbounce, and LeadsRx. Today, I am joined by Gaurav Bhattacharya. He is the CEO of Jeeva.ai, an agentic AI company. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Val. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, this statistic is quite shocking. I got it off your website. It says 72% of a salesperson's time is spent on manual tasks. That figure should send any sales manager spiraling. Where did that data point come from, and why should that be a wake-up call for sales leaders?
Yeah, it's a really old report, so it almost feels like that it actually could be even more now. It was done by Harvard Business Review alongside Gartner, where they evaluated, I think it was close to 1,000 sales reps on average from different industries. And they said that 72% of the time, sellers spend time on non-closing tasks. And when I say non-closing tasks, it doesn't really mean not even talking to customers or which would be even more, I think, right? If you think about it, 90% of the seller's time probably goes into not doing discovery calls or demos or closing or negotiating deals, but probably on manually enriching leads, enriching data, doing like personalized outreach, just chasing, cleaning CRM, just trying to figure out, doing strategy, like which deals to go after. And it also actually does not include anything that related to following up on actual pipeline and deals. So majority of a seller's time goes into just doing manual, repetitive, labor-intensive tasks, which kind of takes them away from not being able to close more deals and even or chase bigger deals.
Okay. Gosh, I'm excited about this episode because I just want to share with our sales leaders and our salespeople all these great tips. So today, let's talk about ways that AI can help sellers be much more efficient. First, you point to the fact that AI can do some research ahead of a call.
Yeah, that's my biggest, fastest use case, Val. Because what I've noticed is, and I think this is like a universal truth here, where people buy from people they trust. And the first thing you can do to build trust, if you don't have a relationship already, is to come off as an expert. So as a salesperson, what I've always learned and what having worked with thousands of salespeople now, building this agentic product, what I've noticed is that the easiest way to build trust is come off as an expert in your industry. So if you're going to meet someone in, let's say, a manufacturing company with more than 500 employees who you're meeting the CIO, if you know about what other pain points other CIOs have, if you know about that CIO's background, where they went to school, what have they done, what's happening in the company, what was the CEO's last webinar, what was the last press release, if you just have these small tidbits of information that makes you feel like you've done your research, you're an expert in the industry, you just build instant credibility and instant trust. And that's like the fastest way of using AI. A lot of sellers feel that maybe using ChatGPT to write a different email or a better email or writing LinkedIn messages is the easiest use. But probably the best use of your time is just doing deep research on a prospect in a company. And what I recommend is using Perplexity because it has the ability to scrape a person's LinkedIn profile, summarize webinars and podcasts. So you can write a prompt, which would be like, imagine you're a deep researcher working for my company. Here's the prospect I'm meeting. Here's their LinkedIn profile. Here's the company. Just do as much research as possible on this person. Give me tidbits about everything from funding history to webinar snippets to what could be opening lines and angles that I can pitch this person, just like their style, how they communicate. Perplexity is crazy at that. I don't know how they do it, but they're able to scrape everything. They're able to crawl different web sources, summarize the information for you. It takes about 2 minutes of your time, but you would go heavily prepared. And that in my perspective is the fastest use of AI to helping salespeople and go-to-market teams close more deals.
Right, because you would think in the past that was a necessary step. But for a salesperson to do that, they would have to first go to that person's LinkedIn profile, pick some stuff out, look at some recent posts, pick some stuff out, go to the company's press release page, pick some stuff out, maybe check the news, and then combine all that into 3 or 4 paragraphs, right? That takes a lot of time, but like you're saying, Perplexity does that in minutes.
That's exactly right. Yeah, a couple of minutes, and it's going to go very deep, not just shallow. It can crawl multiple pages, so it can go into every single page of the website. So a really fun example that we have built into Jeeva, but you can do this manually or in like a tool like Perplexity also, is let's say if you have 100 prospects that you're going after in a week or in a month and 100 companies, you can almost run a research where you can upload that table or a CSV and say, go to everyone's website and figure out whether they're SOC 2 compliant or not. I'm making an example, and just go and say that when did they, or for legal, someone selling into legal tech, I was just talking to a salesperson right before this, and I was giving them an example of like, you can upload a list and just say that go and figure out when did they last file their patent, do they file patents or not, how many patents have they filed, like these kind of nuanced researches just have you so much prepared. Now imagine if I'm a salesperson selling a legal tech, I can go in and say that, hey, we saw that you started filing patents about 3 years ago, but you haven't filed anything recently. Can we help you with that? Can we accelerate that timeline for you? I think these kind of things just make you come off as like a deep expert in the industry. So it cannot be it just doesn't have to be it can also be very nuanced searches for each environment.
I think that's a great point, because that information is out there, but unlike LinkedIn, searching a legal website or a government website is very arduous. And so I think it's just about learning to write the prompt the right way to save time. I'm imagining my sales team, and they have like 4 calls that day, and they write an amazing prompt for AI to research these 4 people. And then they go make their coffee and they come back to their desk and there's their research. It's done for them.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Val. Yeah, one of the features I love about ChatGPT or Perplexity even is a deep research feature where you can write a prompt, let it go, let it run for 15, 20 minutes. And by the time you have your coffee or, your morning chatter and you're back, or your, whatever, your morning walk, and everything's done for you. And you just have to go through the snippets, write these notes and sticky notes, and voila, you're ready, right? This in itself, I feel when I was selling, I'm an engineer, Val, so I learned sales the very hard way as a founder. I was basically the first BDR. I was always the first sales rep. I was trying a lot of different things. And one of the things that worked for me was this deep research. I would always know everything about the prospect and the environment, and I would try to come off as an expert, and I would do a lot of reflective listening and try to kind of regurgitate back what I'm hearing. These small things did much better, but I would have these sticky notes of these different points about this person and what I found, and I would try to like weave that in the conversation somehow, just trying to show that I've done the research. It would take me hours, like literally. Like I remember one of my biggest deals that I've closed in my career, beyond like fundraising, I would say it was Verizon. It was a $1.5 million contract that we ran for 3 years. And by the time I was running that deal cycle, I would wake up in the morning and almost like as if it's an exam, I would be preparing about Verizon every single morning. I would wake up and I basically had all my news. I had Google like alerts on everything going on with Verizon Media, if they're acquiring something, what's going on, right? Like just trying to just stay on top of it every single day for at least 30 or 60 days in that negotiation phase. Obviously, the deal took much longer, but just in that 30, 60 days, I knew everything about like the entire buying team, the 13, 15 people that I was following, what's going on in the company, what's the CEO saying, because we knew that for our size of company, we were getting $5 million almost, like it was a 3-year contract. It would be game changing for us. And it was, but it took me so much time and effort. I was thinking that if I had AI, I would just like wake up to fresh news every day without having to like, go through all the pain that I did. But that's what's needed to really close like, especially bigger deals, but now every deal, right?
Every deal. I think that's the key. Okay. So we talked a little bit about research ahead of a call. You have some good tips for using AI for call follow-up.
Yeah, totally. So there's a couple of things that I love doing, and there's tons of note takers. Obviously, like we've tried to build this in Jeeva as well, but there's free note takers like Firefly's Fathom that you can have in the call. There's a really cool tool that I think ChatGPT is about to do this soon, but there's a tool that I use called Granola. And what you can do is you can basically have it run in the background every single day. It's going to auto detect which calls are you on. And so you can be any call on your computer. You can, if you have your computer on, it can actually even record. Obviously, you have to ask for consent and you have to make sure that people are okay with it. But if you do that, then it would understand when you start a call, it can understand different speakers. It can just summarize every single note for you throughout the day. And what we do now, in addition in Jeeva, is we just even draft a follow-up email. So imagine if you're on a call, we would hear the action items and we would basically say, hey, John and Tim, it was great meeting you today. By the way, here's what we discussed. Here's action items that you have. Here's action items that I have. I'm going to send you a proposal. Here's a calendar invite that we discussed on the call for next Tuesday. And it's a draft. We don't send it out. It's ready to go so that the rep can just say proofread, edit, and send and book a meeting. So post-call follow-up is like a really important step for every salesperson. And I judge that, right? If you think about it, the best salespeople are great at they're great at follow-up. They're super persistent. They're going to follow politely. They're very good. They're very organized. And the worst salespeople, I'm sure you've seen this and in your career, you talk to them, maybe you interview them or you have a sales call and you don't hear back for 2 weeks. Have you had that where you did a demo and it was like a great demo, or you interviewed a salesperson and they don't even send a thank you note or they don't reply to you, and next Tuesday you would be like, oh, it was great talking to you, here's the proposal, right? And it's already too late. Now your mind's already off to something else, doing something else. So quick follow-up is key, and there's like tons of tools out there that sellers can use to just get the actions, get a draft ready so they can quickly send it out and just look like experts.
Yeah, it pains me if it's a product that I really want to buy, but the sales experience was terrible and I still end up buying the product. Like, I think I die a little bit inside when that happens. But let me ask a follow-up question there, because I do love that feature. So it's drafting an email for you based on a meeting.
Yeah.
In your experience, are sales reps typically just sending that email, or do they spend time sort of editing it so it fits their voice a little bit better?
Yeah. And so I think in the future, Val, this is going to happen. AI is going to do this automatically, and we're going to have one universal AI. I truly believe that somebody would do it like Google or OpenAI. As of now, we have a really cool feature, and we would do this. So what I would do is every time when ChatGPT first came out, 3.5 was horrible at emails. It's still not good. But what I would do is I basically took all my sent emails, like 100 of my emails, and I basically passed it to ChatGPT and I said, this is how I write emails. First, learn how I write emails and then write emails for me. So, and that worked really well for me. So we were like, hey, we should build that as a feature in Jeeva. So for people who are not using Jeeva.ai, what they can do is they can just pass like 20 of their best emails that they have written, and they can send it to ChatGPT and have in the same thread, just ask for new emails. But what we do is we create this style guide, Val, which I feel a lot of products can do. But let's say if you were using something like a Jeeva.ai, we would actually go in and learn like your last 300 emails that you've written. We're going to understand from those emails, try to understand your persona, your style, how you write copy, what words you use, what you don't use, what's your sign off, what's your greeting. But moreover, we'll try to create a persona map for you. Like, who are you as a person? Are you decisive? Are you like, do you say no to product pitches? Do you say yes? Are you experimentative? Are you quick to respond? Like, there's so much things, like literally with these 300 emails, it feels like we can learn your life, right? And if you consent to it, we would use that to draft everything. So the short answer to your question is, what we have seen is that in the beginning, reps would change 90% of it. But now I think only 3% of emails get changed or edited. It's usually perfect. A lot of feedback we get from the people who use our product is like, man, this feels like I have written it, right? Like sometimes I get confused whether it's my draft or Jeeva created this draft. So which I'm really proud of. It's like one of our best features, I think.
Okay, as I will say, as a writer, that scares me and excites me at the same time. What about objection handling? I've seen AI try to work on that with mixed success. Is there a tool that typically we could use with AI built in to get ahead of objections?
Yeah, such a great question. So there's a tool called Hyperbound, which is like a sales training tool for objection handling. Then there are other tools as well where you can record calls or you can create a persona and you can practice with them on different objections. Then there are live tools. So Zoom was trying to build this feature, but I know ZoomInfo has this feature, Outreach.io has this feature. It's expensive. Gong has this feature where during the live call, they're basically going to show you if someone has an objection, they're going to quickly query the DB, like a database, and they're going to try and show you what the objection is and what the actual response would be. In short, I don't think these work really well because what I have noticed, Val, and I think you probably would agree with this, a lot of objection handling is not just answering the question, but is how you handle the objection. So as a salesperson, a lot of times when we object, there's an objection, we train our sellers, or what at least what I've learned is you start by asking a lot of questions, and you can start by reflective listening, which is like, Val, sounds like pricing is really important for you, and you noticed that our pricing was let's say $3,000 a month, whereas a lot of the competitors you mentioned are charging $1,900 a month. Am I first capturing that correctly? Like, you want to make sure that what makes us different so that we're almost like $12,000 more expensive a year. Did I capture that correctly? Right. So it's reflective listening. And then once you get that back, you can ask more questions and you can frame it in a way that understands their priority. There's a lot of nuances to objection handling. It's not just a cookie cutter answer. And that's why I think it doesn't work really well. What does work is those training platforms. You get to practice objection handling and get training before the call. So I would say those are really good. The live objection handlers haven't worked that well, or at least like not yet. They're not good enough yet.
Got it. Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit. Everyone likes to talk about today's buyer and how they are so much more savvy and further down the funnel due to AI. I mean, back in the day, you really did have to sit a demo, see the slides to really understand what an offering is. And today you can really do so much of that as a buyer. Yeah. So how is that changing the role of the salesperson?
It's crazy, Val. I feel it's that every morning I wake up, there's somebody who messages me and says, "Oh, the salesperson's gonna die. We won't need salespeople anymore." I'm sure you've heard that as well. There's like every morning we're like, I think the world's gonna need even better salespeople and many more salespeople because selling anything is getting really hard. There's obviously people who buy stuff all the time, right? Like ChatGPT, viral product. There's tools like Lovable, Cursor, Windsurf. Like you'll hear these Stripe like solutions that are just like Unbound, right? Is another one. We use it. We love it. We never talk to a salesperson. It's such a great product. It works on its own. So there's like tools that just work. They're amazing, right? They're just great products. And but you can buy those for $19 a month, $20 a month, maybe $50 a month for anything that is maybe $3,000, $5,000. It's getting so much harder to convince the buyers why they need it. And in sales, one of the there's three things of like why people buy anything. It's basically like, why do anything, which is number one. Why do it now? And why do it like with this particular product, right? So even for our salespeople, we have to train them. We have to convince the buyers why do anything, because the status quo can just be using spreadsheets. And why do it now? Right? What is the urgency for them? They can just do this 6 months later or 9 months later. And why do it with Jeeva.ai versus all the other tools? So, and this is the same question that it has to be answered for everyone. What's happening now is that without the salesperson, let's say the buyer can educate themselves on like, why do anything, right? And maybe even like the salesperson can help with why do it now, but why do it with them is like a very nuanced, intricate question that you need really good salespeople to almost convince them. And even like the best salespeople are able to close the biggest deals fastest because they're able to create that sense of urgency. They're also able to understand what is that main or the economic pain that can really trigger something and even like a bigger solution or a bigger suite of solutions. So there's so much intricacy in selling now. I think I was telling you this story, but last week I spoke to a Fortune 100 CEO. I had a great conversation with him, but he was saying that like about 6 months ago, when a new VP of marketing or VP of sales would come to them and say, "Hey, I want to use like this $50,000 or $100,000 solution or $500,000 solution," their answer would be, "Is it actually 500,000 times better than ChatGPT, which is only a $20 solution?" And what they told me now is just 6 months later, the question they're asking is if a new like VP of marketing or a VP of whatever, a VP of operations comes to them and says, "I need to hire 200 people for like this, I have to change my plan. I now need to hire 250 people because for whatever reason," the question they're asking is, are they actually that much better than ChatGPT? So now they're even comparing people. So if you think about it, every budget is going to get scrutinized with AI. Everything's going to get much harder. Buyers are more informed. So the salespeople have to just be just so good and needed in order to like convince and almost like help like these big orgs buy. So in short, I would say that I think sales is just so different. You're competing like for every product or solution, you're competing with ChatGPT. For every sale, you're trying to like now be an expert. You're trying to educate and trying to figure out the org plan and help the champion buy a solution. You need more salespeople, and you need like so much. Like the salespeople need to be like everything now. Great project managers. They need to be industry experts. They need to be solutions architect. They need to be change managers, right? So there's so many roles that these guys have to bear now in order to just like maybe do a $20,000 deal, which would never happen like 10 years ago.
I know one thing we're seeing is that because the buyers are so educated, they might not want to do a discovery call and then a demo and then see pricing. Like we got to speed things up because they are farther down the funnel and they are likely talking to other vendors who are matching that pace and that urgency.
Oh, that's so right, Val. Like just a year ago, we had this whole sales process where the first call would be a discovery call. Then we would have a group discovery call. Then we would show a demo. And in the discovery call, there would almost be an hour discovery calls where we do medic and we would do medpic and just like go through every single point. People had patience, we had patience, and we would then show a demo. Then we would do a group demo, a negotiation call. Then we would show a proposal, which was like 7 calls later. Now the first discovery call is 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And we have to do a discovery, demo, and a proposal in the same call. Otherwise, it's too late. So I'm more of the believer of like just show them, just ask discovery in between the demo. So there's no stages now, which is so interesting how it's changed so much. And it's not us. It's just how the buyers have changed. They don't have patience. They're back-to-back meetings. They're super busy. They're evaluating hundreds of things. They're getting pitched on products everywhere all the time. There's now multiple products in every category because of AI. Everything's booming so fast. So it's speed is everything, right? High velocity teams win now.
I agree. Back when the telephone was invented, that was the end of the salesperson. And then catalogs and direct mail was the end of the salesperson. And then the internet was the end of the salesperson. Clearly, none of that's come to fruition. So I think AI is just going to make salespeople just have to be more responsive than ever and more savvy than ever.
100% agree, Val. Yeah, I don't think the salespeople are going away anytime soon. Even software engineers, I'm a coder as well. So I always hear that software engineers are going to die. People are not finding jobs. That's almost not true. Almost every company I know is looking for either really good salespeople or really good software engineers. Everyone I talk to, they're desperate for those kind of folks. Obviously, the persona has changed. The kind of people we want are different, maybe high agency more than anything. Because coachability was like the biggest one, right? Some time ago, I think HubSpot did a study as well. And they said that I think out of 200,000 sales managers, everybody said coachability is like the number one thing. I promise if they did it again, maybe velocity would be the number one thing now, or high agency would be number one thing, because there's so many AI tools, people who are self-starters probably get more done. Maybe the qualities have changed, but yeah, we need really good salespeople and really good programmers as well, I think.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't never like the doomsday stuff, but I think more than ever now it is quality salespeople who really can still be super successful in the profession. Gaurav, thank you so much for joining us today on Closing Time.
Yeah, it was amazing, Val. Thank you for having me.
Where can folks get more information about the work you're doing with AI in sales?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Gaurav Bhattacharya. Believe it or not, I'm like the 7th Gaurav Bhattacharya on LinkedIn. So try to match his face. Or my company is called Jeeva.ai. So it's Jeeva.ai. And I have a really simple email. It's just g@jeeva.ai. So I'm very active on email. I read and respond to everything. Super active on LinkedIn. And I post a lot of stuff about AI agents and how it can help salespeople. So looking forward to connecting with folks there.
Great. He's a great follow, so I totally recommend it. Thanks to you all for tuning in this week. Remember, you can get Closing Time delivered to your inbox if you just click on the link in the show notes. We will see you next week.